Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with you this morning, and we welcome our friend Doug Lane from the North Canton Chamber. Good morning.
Good morning. Back with you again.
I know, always fun. And
I think the last time we were talking about the Main Street Fest.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And now it's Christmas time.
Came and went, 20 years, boom.
I know. How about that?
It's like, let's go look at it 21 now.
Well, what I love that happens in North Canton every year is the Christmas tree lighting.
There you go.
And that's got to be coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, December 4th. It's always the first Sunday in December. Occasionally something will happen with Thanksgiving because where it falls, and I can't get the choirs because the schools are out and they're not back and that kind of thing. But almost routinely, it's always that first Sunday. So this year is December the 4th. And we'll do the 5 to 7 thing again where the high lows and the high notes will be there. I've got a couple of other things we're working on, and then we'll have the refreshments like we always have from the community groups. And then Santa arrives, and we have the Santa house that the students at Hoover built several years ago. So Santa and Mrs. Claus will be in there afterwards. It's just a fun event, a nice event. And then that tree, if you can take away the fact that it's not a real tree, it's a permanent tree, but it is so beautiful. And so every year you can add to it, you can do some different things to it, and it certainly has served its purpose for the last 2 years. I guess this will be the third one out. So and they'll be putting that up sometime around Thanksgiving, and then we'll be lighting it on December the 4th.
And because the tradition always was somebody always donated a tree every year,
yeah,
so
what it was,
now you've got your tree.
Yeah, and what it was going back, I mean, this is long before the chamber got involved. The Hoover Company, their employees would give the tree. Hoover Company would pay to transport it. Hoover Company would erect it on the lawn. The Hoover Company employees would decorate it. Well, at the end of '07, there wasn't a Hoover Company.
Right.
So the chamber and the city got together to continue that tradition. And they were able, I think, for about 4, maybe 5 years to get trees donated. But with all the overtime involved and the costs that were involved, and Selinsky's were nice enough to donate some services on that, but it still got to be such a hassle. Then they planted a permanent tree. It was little Charlie Brown tree for the first couple of years. And it was actually getting pretty big, and then it got cut down for one reason or the other. So at that point in time, the city, I was off of council by then, but the city just decided, look, we've got to get a tree, and we've got to have a tree that we can count on every year instead of one that we hope is going to be there.
Yeah.
So they decided to invest, I think it was about $20,000, and they've got some donated money for it. And people at IRG were able to pay back the people that paid for the original real Christmas tree. So it all worked out very well. And it sits at Bitzer Park, and it's a nice location. And eventually, when the Hoover lawn is all done, maybe there's a possibility of doing some things and expanding out the celebration back onto that lawn where it was for so many years, but leaving the tree right there on the corner.
Oh, yeah. Now, where do the decorations come from now? Who decorates it?
They're all part of the tree. The city.
It's all there permanently.
Yeah, but the city recruits some volunteers. It's not city employees. It's some volunteers. The employees make sure the lighting works, but an awful lot of the council people and their families help decorate that. And the neat thing is, it's done by sections. So you can decorate a section, hoist it into place, and so you don't have to get a big picker to send all the way to the top.
That's brilliant.
And have a 10-year-old kid wanting to put a star up there and falling off. So this way it's all done, and then the city puts that final star on there and lights it, and away it goes.
Ah, so neat.
And then the other neat thing about it is you can keep adding sections.
Yeah.
So, every year it can grow if you want it to grow.
We can have a taller tree. It can look like it's growing.
Every year.
I love it. But you only have to decorate the bottom part.
Well, no, you decorate each section all the way up.
Okay.
Yeah. So each section's different.
You'd keep adding a top and another top and another top.
Yeah, you can do that and then hang different ornaments on. It's kind of cool.
It's very cool. That's so fun. And now, remind us, who is keeping headquarters now in what used to be Hoover? Who's in
a lot
there?
of people. The office building itself, because I can't really list everybody because they kind of change in and change out, the smaller suites. But in the old, what was called the world headquarters, there at 219, the two biggest would be Myers Control Power and TrueBridge. And those people have, I think, between them about 400 or 500 employees, maybe more. Maybe it's up to 6 now. And a lot of smaller offices that are in there, different agencies. And the Catholic schools have their major office in there for the county. And then if you go down one more where the plant was, in other words, if you travel east on Maple, Workers' Comp is in there, and the Schreier Group, which is Alter Care and Absolute Health. And they have a facility in Canal Fulton for Avalon Foods, but their offices are there. So You've got probably another couple hundred employees in there on a daily basis, and that's all LEED certified and silver. And then you go across the front, which is what's being developed right now. Eventually, that'll be 130 apartments and about 7 to 10 shops.
Wow.
Then you go around back, and there's some other smaller construction, and they're in the process of releasing the warehouse space that's in the back as well. But it gives you a false reading, because as you're going north or south on Main, you don't see a whole lot going on. And right now they're framing up apartments and they're doing the smokestack again, but it's stuff that's not obvious. But when you go down East Maple and you know where the crossings are, there's people coming and going all day, every day. So that's a good sign.
I don't want to skip over the smokestack. I was just with someone the other day, and they said, "Oh, what's with the smokestack?" I said, "It's coming back."
Oh yeah, there's a crew that's up there every day in that catwalk thing, and it's got a little flag on the top. But they're taking a long time to do it, because I think you're doing brick by brick. It's not like a Lego set where you can just hope that it all fits. I mean, everything has to be perfect, and so part of that is the developer took historic tax credits, and so you can't just take that down and say goodbye. Mm-hmm. It has to go back up. And it's about a $700,000 expense to take it down and get it back up.
Really?
That's about a $45 million project there. So this is a small part of it, but it's an important part. And even the developer will say that it's a major important part of iconic nature of that. So it's going back. I think they're up to the V now. I think I saw the top of the V.
That might be right.
Yeah. So we still got a couple of O's and an H to go. So.
But it's on its way.
Yeah, it's on its way. Hopefully by Christmas that'll be our decoration.
It'll spell Hoover.
Yeah, I hope. Instead of Hoover.
Are you involved with bringing new business and industry into North Canton?
Yeah, we do it. The city does it. Stark Development Board does it. State of Ohio does it. Ohio Means Jobs do it. We're all involved in it. A lot of times the calls are either, for North Canton, will either come into the Chamber of Commerce or to the city normally. And that's to find out about available land, find out about office space, maybe what zoning there is on a piece of property that somebody has an eye on. And then we take it from there, and we'll route it to wherever it has to go. If it goes to a developer, that's fine. If it's somebody that we know who the landlord is on that property. Like right now, we've had conversations with people that are very interested, and I think they're on like a waiting list to go into the Hoover district of different shops and things like that. But none of them have signed on anything yet, because those aren't done. So we know what's coming, but by the time something happens, they might have moved on to something else. So you don't really want to announce those kind of things. Delhi, Ohio opened down on South Main. That took them about 6 months to get in there, but Ryan's in there now. And the folks next door that took over where Zampino's were eventually going to have this Avenue Market that will be open with a lot of different things like Rust and Found has, and like the Saks Thrift Avenue do it. We're starting to get kind of a niche of development in there. So those are all things that we're working with, and we're trying to nurture and let people know that we're behind them and trying to help them, whether they're a chamber member or not, because eventually, hopefully, they will be. But for the good of the city, we want to see as many shops filled up as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when you think shopping and when you think nightlife, sometimes North Canton doesn't come immediately to mind, but they've got some great restaurants. We've got a lot going on there.
Well, Main Street Grill, of course. And
Love Main Street Grill.
Main Street is under a new chef, a new owner now. The building Larry continues to own it, but there is a new couple that run it. And then the entire Hoover complex is zoned for wine and beer and things. So when restaurants come in across the street, there'll be an option there. You go up the street to the newer restaurants with TD's and Twisted Citrus and some of the others that have opened up there. Walters is almost done now. They should be open by spring. Building is up. And they'll have probably some nightlife involved there, probably more of a family restaurant type of a thing, but still, be able to take your family. Maybe if you want to have a beer while you're there, that's fine. There's some other avenues going in down at Washington Square that are going to open up. We're in the process of populating an awful lot in North Canton that you don't, like you said, you don't think of it as being a nightlife spot, because it's not really. We would love to have you walk from the square down to Washington Square, but if it's the middle of winter, that's not going to be the case.
Right.
So you're going to pull up to one of those places around the square and then get back in your car. So it's not like walking through a downtown or anything like that, but it's all readily available right around you.
What's the relationship of North Canton and Plain Township
as far as
economy and business?
Obviously, and there's a couple of avenues there. One, when I was on city council, we took North Canton out of Plain Township. We created our own. It was Hoover Township, and at the time, it made not a whole lot of sense.
Where was that? What was Hoover Township?
That is the exact city limits of North Canton.
Okay.
So, and the same thing happened in Alliance years ago, where they created Alliance has its own township. So for tax purposes, we're no longer part of Plain, but parts of Plain that were in North Canton outside of the city limits, we're paying as a city, we're paying Plain for a number of years what they would lose in property tax. Then it all works out. But the idea behind that was, we had our own independent government. It didn't make much sense to have a government on top of government, so we created this different. So, but the ties that were there between the people that live along Market and in Zip 2-1 and maybe to the north, up in Pembroke and some of the areas off of Apple Grove, and even within the city, the Dells, which is surrounded by the city, is actually in Plain Township. So, we still have those people as customers of our businesses, and a good majority of them go to North Canton City Schools. Now, the other half of that is about a third of the city, maybe a fourth is in Plain local. So some of the people in Washington Square, the people in Monticello, the people down just on South Main, they end up going to Plain local schools. Mm-hmm. So that synergy exists as well. So, even though there might be a borderline there, we try and work with our neighbors on a lot of that. But most of Plain is residential, unless you get into some of the...
I'm thinking Gervasi's and...
Yeah, that's in the city of Canton, though. So that's Canton city limits.
Is it really? Yeah. It's drawn so funny.
Oh, I know. You go just a little bit north, and if you go to First Friends Church on the corner, that's the city of North Canton, but it's surrounded by Canton. So, and they had annexed years ago, and so it's just because they're right next to Monticello, so it ends up being a contiguous area. But you really don't know where you're at half the time.
You really don't. I know. Okay, well, you have Walsh University right there in North Canton. Yeah. Is that considered, so is North Canton kind of a college town, would you say?
Well, we like it to be. Mm-hmm. I've had these conversations, and I know Walsh would like us as a city, not us as a chamber, because we work very well together.
Yes.
But as a city, they would like us to adopt it, similar to what Kent has done and what Worcester has done, and we're trying to push that without ignoring our neighbors right across the 77 at Stark State and Kent Stark, which are major, partners with us.
And would that
Malone.
be considered North Canton?
Well, it's a North Canton address, but it's Jackson Township.
Okay.
And you go to the airport, that's in another county and in the city of Greene with a North Canton address. So, it gets confusing.
It's crazy.
And so you don't want to put these arbitrary lines up to say, well, you're over there, so we don't want to mess with you.
Right.
Because we want them to be our friends, and we want them to be our neighbors, and we want them to communicate with each other and be a part of, what we do. Because I'm always, when I talk to people who want to move in, I talk about our education corridor. I mean, you go down Maple Street, to the east, and you get to Walsh. You go another 20 miles, you're at Mount Union. You turn right and go down Market, you're near Malone. If you go to the west and you just go right across 77, you're at Kent State and Stark State. So, and then you go north, you got Akron, and you got Kent, Maine. So you're right in the middle of everything there, which is what I enjoy. But to try and get back to your question, to make North Canton more of a, quote, college town, I think we need to finish the Hoover project so there's a reason for the college students to come to the center of town, and a reason for our town to head out to Walsh, which is Washington Square, and some of the things that are happening at Walsh. Now, since the last time we were here, Walsh now owns the IBEW building next to the chamber. So they're going to be moving some programming and some other things right there onto the square. So that will give them another reason to, brand themselves and have North Canton in return brand themselves as Walsh's city. So.
And I would think also maybe internship opportunities for some of the students as well.
Yeah, well, we've had interns from Walsh. Right now I have one from Hoover.
They're at the chamber itself or within some of the businesses that are members?
And I know within the businesses there are a number. And I know that a few of our businesses routinely recruit out of Walsh because they know that, they're familiar with the city and they know what the attributes are and things like that, so they don't have to do a sell job.
It's an amazing place, North Canton. All right, we are visiting with Doug Lane, president of North Canton Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.